Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. We had started to literally and idiomatically translate the section of verses under discussion. These were verses from 122 to 141 of Surah Baqarah. We had finished literally and idiomatically translating until verse 129. So I'm going to start off with verse 130. So once we finish with this literal and idiomatic translation, you will inshallah have questions on this before we go on to the next set of verses, which will begin with verse 142. So, وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ وَلَقَدِ اسْتَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Wa and man who yarghabu an. So raghaba an is or raghiba an is one word, and I've been explaining this to you that verbs with their prepositions change their meaning. So whenever we have the word an with raghiba, it would mean to go away from something, to deviate from something. You might have heard of this famous narrative of the Prophet, which we often see our imams pronouncing and declaring at the time of nikah, and the words are وَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي النِّكَاهُ مِنْ سُنَّتِي وَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي, which means that nikah or marriage is my sunnat. The Prophet has said, it is my way. وَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ, so it's the same رَغِبَ عَنْ. So he who deviates, مَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي, from my practice, فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي, he is not from me. So raghiba an, whenever you see this compound this compound word, this phrasal verb as we call it, in which we have a verb to be exact, and its preposition. So raghiba an will always mean to deviate. So وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ would mean who is it who deviates. Millate, and millah is nation or religion. I mean, they are used interchangeably. Ibrahim and is Abraham, and I have pointed out this before as well, that you'll find these two spellings of the word Ibrahim in the Quran used at various instances. So you'll find the word Ibrahim, the way it is spelled out here, without a ya between the ha and the mim, and you'll also find Ibrahim at some other instances. So who can deviate from the nation or the religion of Abraham? Illa is except. Illa, except man who safiha means to put oneself into foolishness. To put safiha means to put into foolishness, and nafsahu would mean oneself. So who is it who can be more foolish than so who is it who is it that deviate from the religion of Abraham, except he who puts himself into foolishness. So idiomatically it would mean that only foolish people are those who deviate from the religion of Abraham. وَلَقَدْ اسْتَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. وَلَقَدْ would mean and indeed. So laqad is indeed, wa is and. Istafaynahu, we chose him, and we chose him fit dunya, in this world. Fi is in, a dunya is this world. So it would mean, idiomatically the sentence would mean, and indeed we chose him in this world. And of course the reference is to the fact that he was chosen as the leader of mankind, the imam of mankind, because of the fact that he had fulfilled certain tests and trials. He had passed those tests and trials in flying colors. وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Wa and innahu, indeed he, fi in, al-akhirah, the hereafter, la indeed, min from, as-salihin, the righteous. So idiomatically the translation would be, and indeed he will be from among the righteous in the hereafter. So the point is that not only did the Almighty choose him for himself in this world, and as a result gave him preference and superiority for the immense trials that he was made to pass, and he passed them in a befitting way, but he will also be among the righteous in the hereafter. And then it says is, remember. Qala, he said. Lahu, is qala lahu rabbuhu would mean his Lord said to him. So Rabbu is the subject of the word qala, and lahu, the pronoun in who is pointing towards Abraham. So it says that recall or remember when his Lord said to him. What did he say? Aslim. Aslim means submit. Submit. Qala, he replied, Aslamtu, I have submitted. Le, to Rabbil Alameen, Lord of the worlds. So the implication is that when his Lord said to him that submit to your Lord, and he was told to submit to his Lord, and he said, I submit. And I not only submit, but he goes on to explain that I have submitted to the Lord of the worlds, not to anyone else, but to the Lord of the worlds. And of course, referring to the fact that when he was given all those directives, and he was, as the Quran has said previously, فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. The words actually imply the fact that he was put through various trials. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ إِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. And recall when Abraham was put to test in certain practices, in certain things. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. He immediately, in fact, he fulfilled them. And when, of course, he was called to submit to the Almighty in the form of that sacrifice that he was shown in a dream, signifying the fact that he should dedicate his son to the service of the Baytullah, or the house of God. He said, Aslim, that I submit. And this is how he went about conducting himself in his life. And then it says, وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ. And wassa means to will, to decide, to make someone, to make something obligatory on someone. But wassa biha would mean that Abraham urged his children. So banihi would mean his children. So banun is basically the plural word, which and it refers to children. So when we add a pronoun to it, it would mean banihi. I mean, the construction would be banihi. So the implied construction is وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ. So Ibrahim willed this to his children, and so did Jacob. Yaqub is Jacob. So biha is the pronoun referring to religion, which is millat Ibrahim, which is already discussed earlier. And because the word millah is feminine in construction, so therefore we have a feminine pronoun as well in the form of ha. So wasa biha Ibrahimu banihi wa Yaqub would mean, and Abraham willed this same religion to his children, and so did Yaqub, so did Jacob. So both Abraham and Jacob, both of them asked their descendants to follow this religion. And now you find that conversation reaching a stage as if in which the conversation is taking place right in front of us. And viewers, this is the beauty of the Quran, that once you have indirect narration embedded in the whole Quran, and suddenly you'll find as if that narration has come to life through a live dialogue between the entities who are there. So the first part of this verse is actually an indirect narration telling us that what did Abraham and Jacob do vis-a-vis making a will to their children. And suddenly, as this verse finishes, you'll find a live dialogue as if something is happening now right in front of you. And the words are, Ya bunayya inna Allah astafa lakum ad-deena fala tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. So Ya bunayya would mean, oh my children, inna, indeed, Allahu, inna Allah, God, istafa. So istafa means to select, to choose, lakum, for you. So kum, of course, is the pronoun for people who are present, and it's a plural pronoun. So God has chosen for you. Oh, God has, what did he choose? Ad-Deen, this religion. Again, the important aspect here is the article alif lam, which is appended to the word deen. So it's not any deen, or it's not all religions, it's this religion. The religion which was being talked about in the previous verses, the religion of Abraham, Millat Ibrahim. This is the religion that is being talked about. So that is why we would translate this as God, that Ya Bunayya inna Allah astafa lakumuddin would mean that, oh children, oh my children, indeed God has chosen for you this religion that we have just talked about. And then it says, فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Therefore, la, not. Tamutunna, you die. Illa, except. So do not die except wa, and antum, you all, Muslimun, submissive, or Muslims. So the implication here is that this is exactly the wasiya, or the will, or the directive which Abraham and Jacob had made to their children. And what was that? That, oh, our children, God has chosen this religion for you, and do not die except that you are followers of this religion, that you are Muslims. So, fala tamutunna, do not die, illa, except, wa antum muslimun, that you are Muslims. Am kuntum shuhada is hadara Yaqub al-maut. So were kuntum, you, shuhada, present. So just as the word shaheed is one of its meanings is to bear witness, another meaning is to be present somewhere. So when we are shahid, or when we are shaheed at some place, it also means that you are present at that place. So this is what the implied meaning of this word here is. Am kuntum shuhada. So were you present is when hadara, neared, or was about to, you say something which is nearing something, we call it hadara. It's about to happen. Yaqub, Jacob, al-maut, death. So the implied meaning would be that, were you present when Jacob was about to die? Were you present when Jacob was about to die? Again, this dialogue is one thing which we have already always talked about, that the Quran embedded in this dialogue not only between the Almighty and the entities which were present in 7th century Arabia at that time, but within that dialogue, that grand scheme, we have another live dialogue, and that is between that narration, or that back and forth movement between the addressee and the addresser. We have people talking to each other as well. So, is qala li banihi ma ta'buduna min ba'di. So, is would mean when. Qala, said, li banihi, to his children. So when he said to his children, and who is the person referred to here? It's Jacob. So remember, it is he who is just discussed, because it is said that, were you present? Were you present when Jacob was about to die? Is qala li banihi, he said to his children, ma ta'buduna min ba'di, ma, who, ta'budun, you will worship, min ba'di, after me. So in the Quran, the word, or the construction min ba'd, is used quite often, and it always means after. So it's not just ba'd, just as the word ba'd means after, min ba'd is also of the same meaning. So it would mean after. And because it is the words are min ba'di, so the translation would be, when he said to his children, ma ta'buduna min ba'di, who will you worship after me, after I pass away? Who will you worship? Qalu, they said, or they replied, na'budu, we will worship, ilahaka, your Lord, wa, and ilaha, Lord, abaika, of your forefathers. And who are these forefathers? Ibrahim, wa Ismail, wa Ishaq. And the idiomatic translation would be, and they replied that we will worship your Lord and the Lord of your fathers, or the forefathers. And who are these? Ibrahim, Ismail, and Ishaq. So Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac, we will worship the Lord of these individuals. And then it says, Ilaham wahid, one Lord, wa, and nahnu, we, lahu, to him, Muslimun, submitters. So they further stressed and emphasized that he is one God, and he is ilahun wahid, he's one God, wa nahnu lahu muslimun, and we are people who submit to that one Lord. Lahu is for, who is him. Tilka ummatun kad khalat laha ma kasabat. Tilka, that. or we can also translate it at this instance as this. Ummatun. Ummah would mean a nation or a community. Kad, indeed, khalat, passed away. So, tilka ummatun kad khalat would mean that this was a community that has passed away, referring to the fact that these are the people, these forefathers, Abraham, Ishmael, Jacob, and Joseph, and all these, they were a nation, but they have now passed away. Laha ma kasabat. Laha would mean for them, ma, that, kasabat, they earned. So whatever they earned is for them. You will not be questioned for them, which is the implied meaning here. Walakum ma kasabtum. Wa, and lakum, for you, ma, that, kasabtum, you earned. So ma kasabat would mean what they earned, and ma kasabtum would mean what you earned. So for them is what they earned, and for you is what you earned, which means that you will not be answerable for them, neither will they be answerable for you. وَلَا تُسْأَلُونَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Wa, and la, not. Tus'alun, you shall be held questionable. An, amma is basically anma. So you'll find this word being written at a number of places in the Quran, in this assimilated construction, in which basically the noon is dropped, and there's a direct connection from the word ayn to ma. So an ma is basically amma. So wala tus'aluna amma would mean you shall not be asked about. An ma is about that. Kanu, they did. Ya'malun, kanu would mean they. They used to, I would say. Kanu would mean they used to, and ya'malun, do. So you will not be asked about what they used to do. Whatever they did is now, I mean, it's going to be registered in their own record. So they will be asked about what they do, and you will be asked about what you do. Again, once again, pointing this out, that there's no one who can, in any case, be of any avail to any other soul on the day of judgment. Whatever was done by each community, by each set of people, is going to come before them on the day of judgment, and no one will share the burden of other. وَقَالُوا كُونُوا هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارَى تَهْتَدُوا. Wa, and qalu, they said, kunu, you become, hudan, Jew, aw, or Nasara, Nazarene or Christian, tahtadu, you will be guided. So they said that either become a Jew or become a Christian, and then you will be guided. So وَقَالُوا كُونُوا هُودًا أَوْ نَصَارَى تَهْتَدُوا, idiomatically the translation would be, and they said that if you become either a Jew or a Christian, you will be guided. So this is the only way that you'll obtain guidance. And in reply, look what the Prophet is asked to communicate to them. قُلْ بَلْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. In fact, it is the millat of Ibrahim. It is the religion of Ibrahim. Hanifa means who was dedicated to his God. So Hanif means someone who is fully dedicated. So here you can see the suppression of a verb. You will not find any verb in this expression, Kul bal millata Ibrahim Hanifa. And this is a very common feature of Quranic Arabic, in which verbs at times are suppressed. So basically the word to the effect ittakhazu has been suppressed would mean that you adopt or acquire or adhere to the religion of Abraham, who was dedicated. So the Prophet is being told that say, Kul is you say. Oh, the Prophet is being told that you announce, you declare. And what do you declare? Bal millata Ibrahim Hanifa. I adhere to the community of Abraham, or to the religion of Abraham, who was dedicated, who was totally committed to his Lord. And then there is a clause of negation, wa and ma, not. Kana was, min, from, al-mushrikeen, the idolaters. So the implied meaning is, and he was not from among the idolaters. He referring to Abraham. So the stress here is that you have to follow the religion of Abraham, who was devoted to his Lord. And remember, he was neither a Jew nor a Christian, because the previous part has said that unless you become a Jew or a Christian, you will not be guided. So this is like a interjection on the part of God, that he says that, well, if these people say that unless you're a Jew or a Christian, you'll not be guided, tell them this is not the case. In fact, you have to follow the religion of Abraham, who was dedicated to his Lord, who was devoted to his Lord, and he was not among the idolaters. He was certainly not among the mushrikun. And then, Qulu, you say, Amanna billahi, we have professed faith in God. Wa, and ma, that unzila, was revealed, ilayna, towards us. So say that we have believed in God and that was revealed to us, towards us. Wa, and ma, that unzila, revealed, ila Ibrahima, to Abraham. Ila is to Abraham. Wa, and Ismail, and to Ishmael. Wa, and Ishaq, to Jacob, to Isaac. Wa, and you can see a small error here in the script. The waw has been amalgamated with the qaf, so just be careful in reading this. Basically, the qaf is separate here. Wa Ishaq, wa, and Yaqub is Jacob. Wa, and al-asbat means their descendants. This is the plural of sibt. So asbat is the plural of sibt. So we will have this idiomatic translation as, you say that we have believed in God and what was revealed to us and what was revealed to Abraham and to Ishmael and to Isaac and to Jacob and to their descendants. So in other words, this is like a profession or a statement of fact that we are not going to believe in being Jews or Christians. Rather, we will believe in what has been revealed to us and what was revealed before us to Abraham and to Ishmael and to Jacob and to their descendants. And it says, Vama utiya Musa wa Isa. Va, and ma, that utiya, was given, Musa, Moses. Wa, and Isa, Jesus. Wa, and ma, that was utiya, given, an-nabiyyun, to the prophets. Min rabbihim, min, from, rabbihim, their Lord. So the statement continues, and it says that not only do we believe in what was revealed to these people, but what was given to Moses and to Jesus and what was given to the prophets from their Lord. And what was that? This is what is coming up. La nufarriqu bayna ahadim minhum. La, not. Nufarriqu, we differentiate, we discriminate. Bayna, between, ahadin, any, minhum, among them. And this is that we do not discriminate between any one of them, meaning that all these prophets of God, the guidance that they've brought down, they are equally valuable to us. They are equally respectable to us. We will follow all of them. We will not discriminate between them. We will not hold one superior over the other. To us, all of them are equally respectable, and they have brought down God's guidance, and we are liable to follow that guidance. And then it says, وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. Wa, and nahnu, we, lahu, to him, muslimun, submitters, which means that we are submitters to him, referring to the fact that we are submitters to God. In other words, we all submit to God, and we, in all cases, give due reference to the fact that whatever the Almighty will tell us, we will follow it without any hesitation. فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Therefore, in, if, آمَنُوا, they profess faith, بِمِثْلِ, similarly, ma, that, آمَنْتُمْ, you professed faith, bihi, in it, فَقَدْ, therefore, indeed, اهْتَدَوْا, they will be guided. So, it is said that if they also profess faith similarly, the way you have professed faith, so if they profess faith the way you have professed faith, and what is that? That the faith that we will have will not make any discrimination between prophets of God. So it is being told that if these Jews and Christians, they also profess faith the way you have professed faith, meaning that they will also not distinguish between prophets of God, فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا, only then will they be guided. فَقَدْ, therefore, اهْتَدَوْا, they will be guided. Wa, and in, if, tawallaw, they turn away, فَإِنَّمَا, indeed, hum, they, fi, in, shiqaq, stubbornness. However, if they turn away from this, then they will be in stubbornness, which means that they will not accept faith, and this is something which makes the Almighty very angry. So therefore, if they turn away, tawallaw means they turn away. فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ, then they are stubborn. They are in a state of stubbornness. فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ. فَسَيَكْفِيكَ means and God is sufficient for you against them. So this word is a compound word, just to explain you a little. So fa and seen here, they are separate words. So yakfi is the Arabic word. Basically, the basic instruction is yakfi. The word ka is the plural, is the pronoun coming here, and whom is another pronoun. So fasa yakfi, the seen that you see here, the word seen just before the word fa, is a word which means soon. So just as we say soon in the English language, the word sa or sofa, these are two words which denote something that is going to happen soon. So fasayakfikahum would mean, therefore soon you will be, therefore soon God will be sufficient for you against them. Yakfikahum Allah. So God will be sufficient for you against them. Wa, and huwa, he, as-sami, hears, he is hearing everything, and alim, knowledgeable. So he is knowledgeable and he hears everything. Fasayakfikahullah, of course, would mean is like an assurance under to the Prophet that don't think that the Almighty has left you alone. Don't think that things, if they are sort of getting out of hand, you would get anxious and worried. No, this is not going to happen. You just need to wait for that time that the help of God is going to arrive, but it is going to arrive soon. Sayakfikahumullah. Soon God will be sufficient for you against these people who are opposing you. Sibghatullah. Sibghatullah means, sibgha in Arabic means the color, the tinge. Allah, God. So God's color. Again, you'll see that there is a verb which has been suppressed here. When I say Sibghatullah, it means color of God. So the implied meaning is adopt the color of God. So basically, or acquire the color of God, or adhere to the color of God. So ittakhazu Sibghatullah, words to this, the word to this effect has been suppressed. So Sibghatullah means adopt the color of God. Wa, and man, who, ahsanu, better, minallah, from God, sibghatan, regarding color. So whose color, man ahsanu minallah sibghatan, whose color is better than God? Waman ahsanu, actually the construction is something like this. Waman ahsanu sibghatan minallah. So this happens in the construction of Arabic language in various sentences, that words are transposed, they are either preposed or they are shifted, they shift their places. So basically, it was Waman ahsanu sibghatan min Allah. As you can see, the word sibgha has been deferred only to account for some of the rhyme which the Quran is often follows. So Waman ahsanu min Allah sibghatan would mean that whose color is better than God's color. Wa, and nahnu, we, lahu, to him, abidun, worship. Worshippers. So we to him are worshippers. This is a literal meaning, and idiomatically it would mean that we worship him only. Nahnu lahu abidun. So a normal construction would have been nahnu abiduna lahu, that we are worshippers of him. Nahnu abiduna lahu. So whenever you find the object, which is the maf'ul as we say in Arabic, or on which the verb is going to happen, if that is preposed, like the word lahu is preposed here from the verb, then it adds stress to the sentence. So a normal sentence would have been nahnu abiduna lahu, and we worship him. But when lahu is preposed with the before the verb, it would mean only he that we worship. So nahnu lahu abidun would mean that we worship only him. Qul, say. So these imperative verbs, qul and the likes of it, as you have seen earlier on, they address the Prophet. So qul would mean, oh Prophet, you say. When it is said say, of course, the address is the Prophet. Qul, O Prophet, say, Atuhajjunana. So atuhajjunana is basically the word is tahajjun, means you argue. The last na that you see is for the speaker, which is God himself, or the Muslims in fact themselves. So it says the Prophet is being told to convey to them, Atuhajjunana, do you argue with us? Fi, in Allah, God. So basically, fi here is, it implies regarding. So the meaning would be, O Prophet, ask them that, do you dispute or do you argue with us regarding God? Wa huwa Rabbuna wa Rabbukum. Wa and huwa he Rabbuna, our Lord. Wa and Rabbukum, your Lord. Whereas he is our Lord and he is your Lord. The fact is that this is something which is absolutely agreed upon us, that he and our and your Lord is the same. So why would you argue about God? Walana a'maluna. Wa and lana for us. A'maluna. A'mal basically is the plural of amal. So a'maluna would mean our deeds. Wa and lakum, your. A'malukum, deeds. So to us, our deeds, and to you, your deeds. Meaning that we will be accountable for our deeds and you will be accountable for your deeds. Lana a'maluna wa lakum a'malukum wa nahnu lahu mukhlisun. Wa and nahnu, we, lahu, to him, mukhlisun, sincere. And we are to him, referring to the fact that we are to God sincere, or idiomatically the sentence would mean, and we are sincere to him. We are sincere to God. Am taquluna inna Ibrahima wa Ismaila wa Ishaqa wa Yaqub. Do. Taqulun, you say. Inna, indeed. Ibrahim, Abraham. Wa and Ismail, Ishmael. Wa and Ishaq, Isaac. Wa and Yaqub, Jacob. Wa and Al-Asbat. This word has just passed a couple of verses ago. Asbat is the plural of sibt, meaning descendants. Kanu, were. Hudan, Jews. Au, or Nasara, Nazarenes. So idiomatically it would mean, do you say that indeed Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and the descendants, they were Jews or Christians? Qul, say, O Prophet, are antum, you, a'lamu, more informed, or Allah, God. So the Prophet is told that, tell them, are you more informed or your God is more informed? Because it is God who is informing this to you. Are you trying to prove that you are more knowledgeable than God? Kul antum a'lamu amillah. Are you more knowledgeable or is God more knowledgeable? Wa and man, who, azlamu, more unjust, min man. So mimman basically is min man. Just as we had the word amma, remember it was an and ma. So just as the word am and ma gets amalgamated and you write it as a single word, amma, similarly here you'll see that min and man. So here the amalgamation is in the form of a new word which means min man. Waman azlamu mimman, who is more unjust than katama. Katama means to hide, shahada, witness or evidence. Indahu, with him, min Allah, from God. So who can be more unjust? Who have a testimony from God, who have an evidence from God, and they conceal it. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ كَتَمَ شَهَادَةً عِنْدَهُ مِنَ اللَّهِ. Who can be more unjust than those who have a testimony or an evidence from God and they conceal it? So we see this is once again referring to a charge sheet that we have been discussing all along in Surah Baqarah, that these people were guilty of hiding their testimony about the last prophet of God, about the fact that he will come in Arabia. And the Quran has pointed us out on numerous occasions that they were fully aware that the last prophet is going to come from the descendants of Ishmael, and they try to conceal this testimony, they try to hide it from their people. And the Almighty says that who can be more unjust than people who do so? وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. Wa and ma, not. Allahu, God. Bighafilin, not aware. Anma is the same as amma. about, ta'malun, you do. So the translation would be, and God is not uninformed about what you do. He's fully aware of what you do, referring to the fact that if you're hiding this testimony, you can hide it from people, but you cannot hide it from God. God knows full well that this testimony was something that was given to you so that when the time comes, you will bear witness. But you did not do so, so therefore there is no one who is more unjust than people who are entrusted with this testimony and they decline to bear it. Tilka ummatun kad khalat. Tilka, this ummatun, nation or community. Qad, indeed, khalat, past. So this was a community that has passed away. Laha ma kasabat. To it, what it earned. La, to. Ha, it. Ma, that. Kasabat, earned. So to it, what it earned would mean to that nation is what that nation earned, meaning that that nation will be responsible for what it earned. Wa, and lakum, to you. Ma kasabtum, what you earned. So to that community is what they earned, and to you is what you earned. Wala, and this, by the way, is a verse which has already passed by in full some sentences ago. So it says, Wala tus'aluna amma kanu ya'malun, wa, and, la, not. Tus'aluna, you shall be questioned. Amma is the same, amma, about. Kanu, were. Ya'malun, they were doing. So to you is what you do, to they is what they do, and you shall not be questioned about what they have done. So this brings us to an end to this part that we had already started last week. So before we move on to our next section of verses, which will begin with with verse 142, if you have any questions up till now regarding the part that we have just idiomatically translated, please raise them.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shabnam, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
सर मेरे दो क्वेश्चंस हैं. पहला एक ट्रांसलेशन वर्ड कि सर वला कद इस्तफैना हो. सर ये जो वला कद है ये मुझे हमेशा कंफ्यूज करता है. कभी इसकी ट्रांसलेशन मुझे लगता है अकॉर्डिंग टू कॉन्टेक्स्ट होती है. आपने इसका इंडीड किया, इंडीड, तो इसका इंडीड तो इन्ना भी होता है. तो सर थोड़ा सा एक तो मुझे उर्दू में बता दें कि या हम कॉन्टेक्स्ट के लिहाज से ही करेंगे. और दूसरा सर आपने अभी कहा कि बनी इसराइल को पता था कि वो बनी इस्माइल में से आएंगे लास्ट प्रॉफिट. सर अगर उन्हें पता था तो फिर वो जेलस क्यों हुए और फिर वो मदीना में आके क्यों उसके सबर्स में आबाद हुए? इफ दे न्यू, मुझे ये थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजिंग लग रहा है. बस सर, थैंक यू सर.
तो देखें, ये जो वर्ड कद है, ये आपने ठीक कहा, ये सियाको सबाक में इसका मतलब तब्दील भी होता रहता है. लेकिन जब ये इस तरह आए किसी फेल से पहले, जैसे इस्तफा से पहले आया है, या जैसे वो मशहूर आयत है जो आपने सुनी होगी, कद काना लकुम फी रसूलिल्लाहि उस्वतुन हसना, तो यहाँ ये बेशक के मफ़हूम में होता है. इसका मतलब होता है कि किसी चीज़ को आप स्ट्रेस कर रहे हैं, एम्फसाइज कर रहे हैं, किसी चीज़ पे जोर दे रहे हैं, तो और लाम जब कद पे आ जाए तो ये मजीद जोर के लिए होता है. तो कद में एक थोड़ा सा जोर होता है, स्ट्रेस होता है. जब कद में भी लाम आ जाए तो ये जोर में इजाफा हो जाता है. तो ये दोनों जो हैं अलग अलग भी, और जब मिल के आते हैं तो ये इसी जोर के लिए आते हैं. और जब दोनों इकट्ठे आते हैं तो आप समझ लीजिए कि दोहरा जोर लग जाता है. तो वलक़द इस्तफ़ैनाहु का मतलब है कि बेशक, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है, इस्तफ़ैनाहु, उसको हमने चुन लिया. और दूसरा सवाल आपका था
सर अबाउट के उन्हें पता था कि वो बनी इस्माइल में से.
हाँ, देखिए, ये तो हम बहुत दफा डिस्कस कर चुके हैं कि हसद था जिसकी वजह से उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सके. कुरान मजीद ने इसको की तरफ इशारा किया है, हसदन मिन इंदि अनफुसिहिम. उनको ये इस चीज पे बहुत ये बुरा लगा कि हमारी अपनी जो नस्ल है, आखिरी पैगंबर उसमें से क्यों नहीं आया. यानी बनु इसहाक या बनी इसराइल जो थे, क्योंकि देखिए 2000 साल तक अंबिया बराह रास्त उन्हीं के यहाँ आते रहे, और वो ये चाहते थे.
सर दे न्यू, वो तो ठीक है सर, लेकिन अगर उन्हें ऑलरेडी पता था फिर क्या सवाल रह गया
देखिए,
था?
पता था तो इसीलिए उन्होंने उसको छुपाने की कोशिश की. इसीलिए कुरान कहता है कि वमन अज़लमु मिम्मन कतमा शहादतन, इससे कौन ज्यादा जालिम होगा जो ये गवाही छुपाए जिसके आप अमीन बनाए गए थे. तो ये तो देखें, ये इंसानी कमजोरी की तरफ इशारा किया जा रहा है.
नहीं
जो
सर, मुझे लग रहा है कि उन्हें इंतजार तो था आखिरी नबी का, और ये पता था कि वो मदीना में या इधर आएगा अरब में. مکہ میں. جی سر لیکن مجھے لگتا ہے کہ انہیں یہ نہیں پتا تھا کہ بنی اسماعیل میں سے ہوگا, اس لیے they got jealous.
نہیں, وہ تو قرآن نے جگہ جگہ بتایا ہے, اور خود حضرت موسیٰ نے بتایا تھا کہ میں تیری مانند تیرے بھائیوں میں سے ایک یہ پیدا کروں گا, اور اشارہ تھا بنی اسماعیل کی طرف. تو حضرت موسیٰ
جی
کی پریڈکشن تورات کے اندر اور جو چیزیں ہیں وہ, اور اسی طرح سے انجیل کے اندر, وہ تو بالکل واضح ہیں, اور قرآن مجید نے اس میں کوئی کسر نہیں چھوڑی یہ بتانے کے لیے کہ یہ تو پیغمبر جو ہیں وہ آخری جو آئیں گے وہ بنی اسماعیل میں سے آئیں گے, اور اسی وعدے کے مطابق آئیں گے جو حضرت موسیٰ سے اللہ تعالیٰ نے کیا. اس وجہ سے ایسا نہیں کہ ان کو اشتباہ تھا یا ان کو پتہ نہیں تھا کہ بنی اسماعیل سے آئیں گے, کیونکہ قرآن تو یہ کہتا ہے کہ وہ ان کو ایسا پہچانتے ہیں کہ جیسا کوئی مہجور باپ اپنے بیٹے کو پہچانتا ہے, اس پیغمبر کو بھی پہچانتے ہیں, اس قرآن کو بھی پہچانتے ہیں. یعرفونہ کما یعرفون ابناءہم. تو ایسا نہیں ہے کہ ان کو کنفیوژن تھی, ان کو صرف یہ قد تھی, یہ بغض تھا, یہ جیلسی تھی کہ یہ ہماری اپنی نسل سے کیوں نہیں آئے. اور میں
تو سر یہ
کر
تو
رہا ہوں
پہلے
کہ انسانی
سر یہ تو
کمزوری ہے.
لیکن سر یہ ٹھیک ہے, وہ تو انہیں پہلے ہی پھر جیلس ہو جانا چاہیے تھا جب انہیں
تو
پتا
وہ
چلا
شروع
تھا
سے ہی تھے. دیکھیے یہ
شروع سے.
جیلسی تو ان کے اندر تبھی تو انہوں نے اپنے اسکرپچرز میں تبدیلی کرنے کی کوشش کی. انہوں نے
رائٹ سر.
کچھ جگہوں پہ نام ہٹایا اسی وجہ سے کہ جب ان کو اندازہ ہو گیا کہ آخری پیغمبر ان کی اپنی امت سے نہیں آئیں گے, تو یہ کام تو
جی
ان کے علماء نے بہت پہلے کرنا شروع کر دیا تھا.
رائٹ
اور
سر.
جہاں پہ انہوں نے نام تبدیل کیا تو اس کی وجہ یہی تھی. اور اسی سے اندازہ
رائٹ
لگائیں کہ یہ انسانی کمزوری جو حسد کی شکل میں انسان پر جب ایک اپنا حملہ کرتی ہے تو کس انتہا پہ اس کو لے جاتی ہے. اور یہ
رائٹ
ایسی کمزوری ہے کہ جو انسان اس سے مبرہ آج بھی نہیں ہوا. یعنی یہی وہ
جی
جیلسی ہے جس کو آپ جب ایکسٹریم پہ لے جاتے ہیں تو یہ انسان کے اندر وہ نفرت کے جذبات پیدا کر دیتا ہے دوسرے کے لیے, اس لیے کہ انسان کو اپنی برتری کا زوم ہوتا ہے. یعنی یہ جو بات ہے کہ کیوں وہ دوسروں میں سے آ رہا ہے, جو حسد کا پیچھے ذہنیت کیا ہے, وہ ذہنیت یہی ہے کہ ہم برتر لوگ ہیں, ہمارے اندر 2000 سال تک انبیاء آئے ہیں, آخری نبی کو بھی ہمارے اندر آنا چاہیے تھا.
جی رائٹ, تھینک یو سر.
There's a question related to the word qad. So Adil is
Right.
asking, I think the word qad is also to donate the past as compared to inna.
Right. So that also is one of the meanings of qad, that it refers to the recent past at times. And distant past and recent past, these are two phrases that we often use. So at times the recent past is also referred by the word qad. But as you can see that this is a question of usage. It's not that, you just juggle around with these words. You are able to pinpointedly know where the word is used in which meaning.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Iqra, but Bashir, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
اوکے سر, میرے 3 سوال ہیں. ایک تو وہ جس آیت میں کہا کہ جو انہوں نے کمایا اور جو تم نے کمایا تم سب اس کے لیے جواب دہ ہوگے اور دوسروں کے لیے نہیں. تو اگر ہم اس کو ملت سے افراد پہ اگر تھوڑا کریں جنرلائز, تو کیا جو والدین ہوتے ہیں وہ بچوں کی تربیت کے ذمہ دار ہوتے ہیں, تو کیا وہ بعد میں اس کے لیے جواب دہ ہوں گے اگر انہوں نے اس میں کوئی کوتاہی کی ہے؟
دیکھیں پہلی بات تو یہ کہ ظاہر آیت تو وہ نہیں کہہ رہی, لیکن آیت سے ہٹ کے جو آپ بات کہہ رہی ہیں وہ بالکل حقیقت ہے کہ آپ اگر جس چیز کی جو ذمہ داری ہوگی, جس کی بھی جو ذمہ داری ہوگی, اگر وہ ذمہ داری سے وہ کوتاہی کرے گا, کوئی بھی ہو سکتا ہے وہ, اور ذمہ داری وہ کوئی بھی ہو سکتی ہے. سو اگر آپ اپنی ذمہ داری سے گریز کریں گے یا اس کو پورا نہیں کریں گے تو آپ مسئول ٹھہرائے جائیں گے. یہ تو بات الگ سے درست ہے.
صحیح. اور مطلب اگر وہ اپنی تربیت میں اپنا جو کردار تھا وہ کرتے ہیں, اس کے باوجود بھی اگر اولاد میں کوئی کمی رہ جاتی ہے تو پھر والدین اس کے لیے جواب دہ نہیں ہوں گے.
جی بالکل ایسے ہی, آپ نے اپنا جب
صحیح
کردار ادا کر دیا تو پھر آپ نہیں ہوں گے.
صحیح. اور سر دوسرا سوال میرا یہ ہے کہ جب وہ غالباً وہ 135 آیت تھی کہ جس میں یہود و نصارہ کا ذکر اور ابراہیم جو ہیں وہ مشرکین میں سے نہیں تھے, تو کیا وہ مشرکین کا ورڈ یہود و نصارہ کو ریفر کرتا ہے؟
نہیں, وہ یہ بتانے کی کوشش کرتا ہے کہ جو وہ مشرکین ہیں جو وہ بھی تو حضرت ابراہیم کو اپنا ابو الابا مانتے تھے نا, جو جن کو بنی اسماعیل آپ کہتے ہیں, جو امیین تھے, تو ان کو بتایا جا رہا ہے کہ نہ وہ یہودی تھے, نہ وہ نصرانی تھے, نہ وہ مشرکین میں سے تھے. تو عرب میں 3 ڈینومینیشن تھی نا, 3 لوگ آباد تھے, یہود تھے, نصارہ تھے اور بنی اسماعیل کے مشرکین تھے. تو ان کو یہ بتایا جا رہا ہے کہ وہ آپ تینوں میں سے نہیں ہیں, وہ تو حنیفاً مسلمہ ہیں, کیونکہ آپ لوگ اپنی اپنی ملتوں کے لمبردار ہیں. آپ لوگ مشرکین جو ہیں وہ شرک کے لمبردار ہیں, یہود و نصارہ جو ہیں وہ اپنی قومیت کے اور اپنے جو ان کی بلیفs ہیں ان کے لمبردار ہیں. ابراہیم ان تینوں میں سے نہیں تھے, وہ اللہ تعالیٰ کے حنیف مسلم تھے. حنیف کا مطلب ہے یکسو, بالکل ڈیووٹڈ.
صحیح. تو مطلب اسی لیے پھر ہم یہود و نصارہ کو اہل کتاب کے سے مخاطب کر سکتے ہیں لیکن مشرک نہیں.
بالکل
صحیح.
مشرک نہیں
اور
کہہ
سر
سکتے.
میرا جی اور میرا تیسرا سوال یہ ہے کہ وہ جو ایک اس کے بعد بھی شاید آئی تھی کہ ہم اس پہ کہہ دیجئے کہ ہم اس پہ بھی ایمان لائے جو اسحاق
ہوں،
ابراہیم اور سب پہ اور جو ان سے پہلے ان پہ نازل ہوا، تو اس میں مطلب
جی
تورات زبور وغیرہ، تو کیا
سب
آج کل کے مسلمانوں پہ بھی یہ بات ہے کہ ہمیں اس پہ ایمان لانا ہے، اور ایمان لانے کے لیے کیا ہمارا اس کو پڑھنا بھی لازمی ہے، جاننا، اور پھر اب ان کے اسکرپٹ میں تو چینجنگز بھی جس طرح سے ہیں، تو اس کو تھوڑا کلیئر کر دیں.
دیکھیے میں تو یہ بہت دفعہ یہاں پہ فورم پہ ہی بتا چکا ہوں کہ ایمان لانا تو لازم ہے، اور ایمان اگر آپ لے کے آئیں گے ان کو بغیر پڑھے تو یہ تو اندھا ایمان ہوگا. اس وجہ سے ان کو پڑھ کے ہی پڑھنا چاہیے. ایمان تو آپ لے کے آئیں گے، خدا کی کتابیں ہیں، تو اس کا تقاضا پھر یہ ہے اس ایمان کا کہ اس کو آپ پڑھیں بھی. اور جہاں تک پڑھنے کا تعلق ہے، اگر آپ ان کو قرآن کی روشنی میں پڑھیں گے تو آپ بالکل گمراہ نہیں ہوں گے. آپ کو یہ نظر آئے گا، اور جیسے کہ ہم جب یہاں تدریس کرتے ہیں بائبل کی، اس کو ڈیمونسٹریٹ بھی کیا جا چکا ہے کہ 70-80 بلکہ شاید اس سے بھی زیادہ جو کنٹینٹ ہے تورات کا اور انجیل کا، وہ بالکل قرآن کے مطابق ہے. چند جگہوں پہ تحریفات ہوئی ہیں. تو ہمارے ہاں تصویر یہ پیش کی جاتی ہے کہ جیسے ایک زیادہ بڑا حصہ جو ہے وہ محرف ہے، وہ تبدیل شدہ ہے، اور تھوڑا سا حصہ جو ٹھیک ہے، جبکہ بات بالکل الٹ ہے. اس وجہ سے اگر آپ کسی استاد سے یا کسی یعنی آپ سمجھ لیں ایسی کتابوں سے کہ جو قرآن مجید کی روشنی میں بائبل کی تشریح کرتی ہیں، اگر آپ بائبل کو پڑھیں گی تو نہ صرف یہ کہ آپ کو بہت ساری معلومات حاصل ہوگی، بلکہ آپ کو یہ معلوم ہوگا کہ کیسے اللہ تعالیٰ پچھلی کتابوں میں بالکل وہی بات کہتے ہیں جو وہ آج کہہ رہے ہیں. اور اسی وجہ سے ان کا جو مقدمہ ہے قرآن مجید میں، وہ پورے کے پورے قرآن میں یہ ہے کہ ہم نے آدم سے لے کے محمد تک ایک ہی مذہب کو، ایک ہی دین کو نازل کیا، اور اس میں جو تھوڑی بہت تبدیلیاں شریعت میں کی گئی ہیں وہ تمدن کے تقاضوں سے کی گئی ہیں. ورنہ جہاں تک عقائد کا تعلق ہے، جہاں تک اخلاقیات کا تعلق ہے، وہ روز اول سے لے کے روز آخر تک یعنی نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم تک بالکل ایک رہا ہے.
صحیح. سر اگر یہ مطلب یہ ایمان کا حصہ ہے یہ چیز، تو ہم دیکھتے ہیں بہت وسیع پیمانے پہ اکثریت جو ہے وہ اس چیز سے مطلب اس کو ہم ناآشنا ہیں، کوئی بھی نہیں پڑھتا، مطلب بہت ریئر لوگ ہیں جو دوسری کتابوں کا بھی کر رہے ہوتے ہیں. تو کیا
جی تو
ہم ان
ہم
کو ان کے
اسی
ایمان
وجہ
میں
سے یہاں پہ کوشش کرتے ہیں کہ ہفتے میں ایک دن یا کچھ پیریوڈیکلی ہم بائبل کا مطالعہ کرتے ہیں. اور یہ تو ہم سب کو چاہیے کہ اپنے سرحانے بائبل کو رکھیں، اور نہیں ہے تو آپ کے اس وقت ویب سائٹس اویلیبل ہیں، ایپس اویلیبل ہیں، جس سے آپ اس کا مطالعہ کر سکتے ہیں.
بہت شکریہ، جزاک اللہ.
Asif Ali, please go ahead.
جی السلام علیکم ڈاکٹر صاحب.
وعلیکم السلام.
سر میرا کوشچن یہ ہے کہ اگر یہ انجیل اور جو بائبل اور جو دوسری کتابیں ہیں، اگر ان میں ان کو ہمیں پڑھنا چاہیے، تو پھر کیا یہود اور نصارہ جو ہیں جو ان پر عمل کرتے ہیں، لیکن صرف ایک فرق ہے کہ وہ رسول اللہ پر ایمان نہیں رکھتے، تو پھر تو اس کا مطلب ہے کہ وہ بھی اللہ کی رحمت کے حقدار نہیں ہو جائیں گے پھر اس طرح؟ تو کیونکہ اس میں تو
نہیں،
تھوڑی بہت ہی
پڑھنا دیکھیں، پڑھنا تو اس لیے ہمیں ضروری ہے کہ وہ قرآن مجید ہی کی پیش رو کتابیں ہیں، لیکن رسول اللہ پر ایمان لانا تو مثبت طور پہ ضروری ہے، کیونکہ وہ اللہ تعالیٰ نے اس کو بتایا ہے کہ پیغمبر جو آخری آئے ہیں ان پاس اللہ تعالیٰ کی محفوظ ہدایت انہیں پر نازل ہوئی ہے. تو آپ کو اس ہدایت پہ بھی ایمان لے کے آنا ہے اور اس آخری پیغمبر پہ بھی ایمان لے کے آنا ہے. تو اسی وجہ سے اگر وہ صرف قرآن پڑھتے ہیں تو ضرور پڑھیں، لیکن ان کو یہ معلوم ہونا چاہیے کہ ان سے یہ تقاضا نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی پیدائش سے بہت پہلے کر لیا گیا تھا کہ جب آخری پیغمبر آئیں گے تو آپ نے ان پر ایمان لانا ہے، ان کی مدد کرنی ہے، ان کی نصرت کرنی ہے. یہ سب چیزیں تورات میں درج تھیں کہ وہ آخری پیغمبر کے ساتھ آپ نے یہ رویہ اختیار کرنا ہے. تو اس وجہ سے تنہا اتنی بات نہیں ہے. تو اگر اس میں وہ کوئی کوتاہی کرتے ہیں تو یا تو ان کے پاس کوئی جینون ریزن ہونا چاہیے جس کی وجہ سے وہ سچائی تک نہ پہنچ سکیں، یا نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی حقانیت میں کوئی ان کو کلام ہو. لیکن اگر وہ اس پہچان لیں کہ یہ سچے پیغمبر ہیں اور اس سچے پیغمبر کے طور پہ ان کو ایمان لانا ہے اور پھر بھی ایمان نہیں لے کے آتے، تو پھر یہ وہ چیز ہے کہ جو اللہ تعالیٰ کے ہاں پکڑ کا باعث بنتی ہے.
تو مطلب آج کا یہود اور آج کا نصارہ، یعنی آج کا کرسچن اور آج کا یہودی جو ہے، وہ اس کے لیے یہ ضروری ہے کہ وہ رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم پر ایمان لائے، تو تبھی ہم اس کو کہیں گے کہ یہ اب جو ہے حقدار ہوں گے اللہ کی رحمت کے، ادھر بھی اور
نہیں،
آخرت میں
دیکھیں
بھی.
اس کو آپ اس طرح سے درج کریں کہ وہ اس چیز، یہ سوال ان کے ذہن میں ضرور پیدا ہونا چاہیے کہ اللہ تعالیٰ کی اگر آخری ہدایت موجود ہے اور اس آخری ہدایت نے اپنے بارے میں یہ تقاضا کیا ہے، یہ دعویٰ کیا ہے کہ اس پر ایمان لانا ضروری ہے، تو پھر پہلے ایک مرتبہ ان کو اس ہدایت کے بارے میں کوئی رائے قائم کرنا ضروری ہے. یعنی بے شک ریجیکٹ کر دیں وہ، لیکن سنسیئر ریجیکشن भी उनको हकदार बना सकती है। जो चीज उनको हकदार नहीं बनाएगी वो केयरलेसनेस या इनडिफरेंस है कि एक ग्रुप ने ये कहा कि हम अल्लाह ताला की आखिरी किताब रखते हैं, तो आपने इस दावे को एंटरटेन ही नहीं किया। आपने कहा जी ठीक है, देखी जाएगी, हमें इससे कोई गर्ज नहीं है। तो अल्लाह ताला कहते हैं कि भाई ये जरूरी नहीं है कि आप उनको मान लें, लेकिन मान के डिसमिस करें किसी ऐसी बुनियाद पे जो वाकई लेजिटिमेट हो, तो अल्लाह ताला के यहाँ उसकी सुनवाई हो सकती है। लेकिन आप ये कहें जी कि हम सुनेंगे नहीं, हम किसी ना किसी बायस की वजह से, किसी तासुब की वजह से इसको जायजा नहीं लेंगे, तो ये पकड़ का बायस बनेगी। इस वजह से ऐसा नहीं है कि वो हकदार नहीं होंगे, वो हकदार सिर्फ तब नहीं होंगे कि जब वो इसके बारे में एक इनडिफरेंट रवैया अख्तियार करेंगे। अगर वो इसको पढ़ के भी रिजेक्ट कर लेते हैं, यानी वो पैगंबर ने दावा किया, उन्होंने कुरान मजीद को पढ़ा और सिंसियरली, और यूं समझ लें कि बिल्कुल एक किसी वजह से उनको ये महसूस हुआ कि भाई ये पैगंबर सिर्फ मुसलमानों के लिए हैं, या फलां फलां चीजें जो हम पे नहीं है, तो ये सब वो चीजें हैं कि जो अल्लाह के यहाँ एक डिस्कशन या डिबेट का बायस बन सकती हैं और उनको इसमें रियायत भी मिल सकती है। लेकिन जैसे मैंने कहा कि ये बात कि आप सिरे से एंटरटेन ना करें, ये पकड़ का बायस बनेगी।
तो फिर इसका मतलब है कि मुसलमानों की हैसियत उनके लिए एक दाई की होनी चाहिए, क्योंकि मैसेज तो हमारे पास है, अगर हम उन तक पहुंचाएंगे तो तभी वो।
जी बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है, और ये हम बहुत दफा कह चुके हैं कि ये जिम्मेदारी से अगर वो कोताही करेंगे तो हो सकता है वो हकदार हो जाएं और जो जिम्मेदार हैं वो हकदार ना हो, क्योंकि आपने अपनी जिम्मेदारी पूरी नहीं की।
Yes, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
So as you were saying, I mean, the Torah is about 80% correct, but in the Surah Qaf, I mean, it says, I mean, in yakuluna illa kadhiba. So is it pointing to something different than the Torah? I mean, that whatever they are saying.
Well, I'll need to see that verse in its context, and only then I can comment. I mean, I cannot comment until I have the verse in its context before me.
Can I say the verse?
Yes, why not? I mean, you'll have to read some of the context also.
Okay. Ma lahum bihi min ilmin wala li abaihim kaburat kalimatan takhruju min afwahihim.
No, this is not sufficient, because it says ma lahum bihi ilm, which means they don't have any knowledge. This means that something before these verses has been discussed, and it says that kaburat kalimat takhruju min afwahihim, which means that they are saying something which is very heinous. So that has been quoted before these verses somewhere. That needs to be checked.
So is it that they are saying there is a son of God, and is it referring to that?
Yes, that could be one area. I mean, I don't have those verses before me, but there was some statement to which this is being referred to. I mean, the word kaziba is not a general word. There is something that they had stated earlier on, which must be stated before these verses, about which this verb is referring to.
So it's very specific to the what
it's
came
specific.
before that.
Yes, of course, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. That was it for all of the questions.
Okay, now let's start the next section of verses, which begin with verse 142 and they go on to verse 162. So we'll just take up these verses the way we do, and also try to see that how some of the important discussions that arise whilst translating and trying to understand these verses is going to do so. So, سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل لله المشرق والمغرب يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. O Prophet, we have decided to make the mosque built by Abraham as your qibla. So this is something which our Ustaz has put into parentheses, meaning the fact that this part of these verses basically are verses in which this is the implied meaning, that once we are made to understand the fact that the responsibility of the deliverance of the last message was to be transferred to the Ishmaelites, so it was only befitting that the very house which was built by their progenitor Abraham should be shifted to the direction of prayer should be shifted towards it. So it says, سيقول السفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها. Now the foolish among them will ask, what has made them turn away from the qibla of theirs on which they were before? So this is basically the fact that just, I mean, in the times of Prophet Muhammad, there was this time, and this is not mentioned exactly in the Quran, that for some time, the Muslims, they were made to face the Baitul Maqdis, which is in Jerusalem. And the Quran, as we go along, will say, it tells us that the reason that these Bani Ishmael were directed to pray towards the Baitul Muqaddas was that whether they listen to the directive of God or not, because of course the Ishmaelites, they were very, very devoted to the house of God, and now they were being told by God himself to shift their Qibla from the Baitullah, which is the house of God in Mecca, to another house of God, which is now in Jerusalem. So remember, this surah is a Madani surah, and in the Meccan surahs, or the Meccan times when the Prophet was there, this question did not arise, because when people were facing the Baitul Maqdis, the direction was such in Mecca that if you face the Baitul Maqdis, you would also face the Kaaba. So it was like praying towards the Kaaba, and this question, of course, did not become a cause of worry in the minds of the Prophet or the Muslims. But when they shifted to Medina, the directions changed. So the Kaaba was on another side, and the Baitul Maqdis was on another side. So when they were praying towards Baitul Maqdis, and this was something which they had been told, that now you shift your Qibla towards Baitul Maqdis. And now this is a question which was raised by these people. And it is said that Ma wallahu min an qiblatihim allati kanu alayha, that the foolish among them will ask, what has made them turn away from the Qibla of theirs on which they were before? So earlier on, they were facing the house of God in Mecca, which is the Baitullah. And then they were told, which is of course not mentioned in the Quran, but they were told outside of the Quran, and the Quran is referring to that you shift your direction towards the Baitul Maqdis. So the fact is that the mischief mongers and the miscreants, they just got a chance, an opportunity to make fun. That why is it that they keep shifting their Qibla? Or they were praying towards the house of God, which is in Mecca, and now they have shifted to the house of God in Jerusalem. Of course, the slant being that there are people who are vacillating from one to the other, and it seems that they are not very certain of what they are doing. Now, the question that the Quran says in a very, very stern voice, قُلْ لِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَىٰ صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Tell them, the east and the west, all are God's. He guides whomsoever He wills from such prejudices to the right path. يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. We have done precisely this, and just as we have made the sacred mosque your Qibla, in a similar manner. So this is something which is being told to them, that now they are just as their Qibla has been changed once again from the Baitul Maqdis back to the Kaaba. These people would say that, well, these people were worshipping or praying in the direction of the house of God in Jerusalem. Now they have been asked to once again turn to the house of God, which is now in Mecca. And why is it that they are doing so? So the answer that the Almighty is giving them is that it is understandable now that initially the Israelites, they were the people to whom this position of Shahada, or this bearing witness to the truth, was being confined to, or they were deputed for this responsibility. Now this responsibility is being shifted to the Ishmaelites. So just as the Kaaba is being shifted back to its original, which is the house of God in Mecca, in a similar way, God says that these people have proven unworthy of their responsibility, these Israelites. So in a similar manner, just as the Qibla is being changed back to the Baitullah, now the responsibility of Shahada is now also being given to the Ishmaelites, or people who were worshipping one God only, and they were the people who lived in Arabia. So وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ would mean we have precisely made this, and just as we have made the sacred mosque your Qibla, in a similar manner we have also made you an intermediate community, so that you may bear witness to the truth before all people of the world, and the messenger of God may bear this witness before you. So the implication here is that the responsibility of disseminating the truth in the form of Shahada is now entrusted to you, which are the Ishmaelites. Why? Because the Prophet has borne this witness to you. So just as the Prophet has borne witness to this responsibility on the Ishmaelites are now responsible of transferring this to the rest of the world. And very, very, I would say in a very subtle way, the word wasat is used. Wasat means in the middle. So it's like telling them that you are the middle, you are standing in the middle. On the one side are God and His Prophet. You are standing in the middle. You are the Ummat-e-Wasat. And on the other side is the rest of the world. And you are the middle community. And why are you in the middle community? Because you are forming that bridge. Yet you receive that guidance from the messenger of God, and then you transmit it to the rest of the world. So you are the Ummatun Wasat. And why is it that you are you're being conferred with this position? Because the messenger has borne witness of this religion before you. And now you are responsible of bearing witness of this religion before other people of the world. And a word about the word Shahada that we have studied here is in order. You see, the word Shahada, which is used here in the Quran and has been used at other places as well, is used in its sense that the truth is unveiled in such a manner before the adversaries that they are not left with any excuse. They are not left with any excuse to deny it. And therefore, as if they start to deny it, the Almighty says that they are punished for this. So as far as the Quran is concerned, we know very clearly that the word Shahada doesn't merely mean to preach or to deliver. It means to deliver religion in such an ultimate way, in such a conclusive way, that the people to whom it is delivered, they have no excuse left except stubbornness to deny it. And this is also called Itmamul Hujjah. So you must have heard this word a number of times from our Farai teachers and scholars. So the word Itmamul Hujjah is the same, as you can see, the way you need to understand it as the word Shahada, which means conclusive communication of the truth. Such a conclusive way that you communicate the truth that there is no question about it left in the minds of people who received it. So, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الْقِبْلَةَ الَّتِي كُنْتَ عَلَيْهَا إِلَّا لِنَعْلَمَ مَنْ يَتَّبِعُ الرَّسُولَ مِمَّنْ يَنْقَلِبُ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ. Now, here in these verses, you can see the expediency or the reason why the Qibla was changed has been mentioned in such clear words. And a prophet, we appointed your former Qibla only to see who follows the messenger and who turns on his heels. So before they were being turned away back to the house of God in Mecca, the Baytullah, the reason that why they were asked to pray towards Jerusalem, towards Baitul Maqdis, is now delineated here. And it says, وَمَا جَعَلْنَا الْقِبْلَةَ الَّتِي كُنْتَ عَلَيْهَا. The Qibla on which you people were before, why is it that we asked you to follow that Qibla? لِنَعْلَمَ مَنْ يَتَّبِعُ الرَّسُولِ. So that we are able to test you, have come this out from you, make this clear evidence from you, shine before yourselves as the midday sun, that who follows the messenger and who turns on his heels. So this was like something which could have really hit them hard. But because it was a question or a directive of God, they were told that if you follow it, then of course you will not be questioned. And then it says, وَإِنْ كَانَتْ لَكَبِيرَةً إِلَّا عَلَى الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ فَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِالنَّاسِ لَرَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Undoubtedly, this was a grave thing. وَإِنْ كَانَتْ لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ, except for those people who were on God's guidance. It was something very tough, and obviously it was very tough that you are being told to shift from your beloved Qibla, something that you really cherish, towards another Qibla. So Quran says it was very tough, except إِلَّا عَلَى الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ, except people who are guided by God. And وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ, and God is not one who is going to waste your deeds, which means that you should not think that if you're praying towards some other cherished direction, in some other cherished direction, once you were restored to the original direction, then your previous deeds that were done in the other direction, of course, praying to God in that direction, would have lost. You would not have earned any reward. The Almighty says, "Ma kana Allahu liyudhi'a imanakum." God is not going to turn away your deeds into nothing. They will be accepted, because when you were shifted towards the house of God in the Baitul Maqdis in Jerusalem, it was to test you. Now that you're being shifted back, it doesn't mean that your previous prayers are just going to end in vain. They will be accepted. Inna Allaha bin nasi la ra'ufur rahim. And God indeed is very compassionate. He is very compassionate. And He is also someone who is ever merciful. So clearly you can see that the Bani Ishmael, or the Ishmaelites, they were put into this test, that they have to understand that they were, of course, formerly doing this at the behest of the Almighty, that were praying towards the Holy Kaaba, and then for some months or some time, some stipulated time, they were made to shift from the Baitullah and pray towards the Baitul Maqdis. But they could not feel this, because as long as they remained in Mecca, the direction of the Baitul Maqdis and the Kaaba were the same. But as soon as they came into Medina, this started to, worry them, and they thought that, why is it that they are still being asked to do so? The Quran says that the reason for this is that they were being put to this test, and if they succeed in this test, they should rest assured that their deeds that were done prior to this will not go waste. So before I go on to the next part, or the next set of verses, if you have any questions regarding these set of verses, please raise them now.
Akram Bhatti, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Ummat Wasta, the way you have explained it, to me, I think you said it was those people who were present at the time, and they were in the middle of the previous Ummah,
Right.
and the Ummah to come. But someplace I read that today we are the people of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the followers. They are the middle Ummah, because we are between them and the hereafter. So how?
So this is by extension. This is by extension. You see, what has happened is that Banu Ismail, the Sahaba, or the people who were there, of course, only they were the ones to whom Prophet Muhammad bore witness. We are not there. His witness did not reach us. But it reached us through his book and through these later generations through which religion was transferred. So it is like saying that we are as supplementary additions to this ummah. Obviously, the Banu Ismail are the ones who are being talked about here. And Banu Ismail, of course, today are scattered. We know the Banu Hashim. We know some of the people who live in Arabia today. They are purely the Ishmaelites. We know some of the people who live in Morocco and some other parts of the world, scattered in Jordan and some other places. They also are the Banu Ismail, but they don't live in that collectivity. So they are now in the form of a scattered community. But as far as the rest of the Muslim Ummah is concerned, so they are like a supplement. They are like an addendum to the main preface or the main community itself. So if you have read this, then you have correctly read this, because this is just a question of that extension that we form part when we accept faith and enter the community of the Banu Ismail. So we don't become Banu Ismail per se, because of course we are not.
Yeah.
And in all probability, if you trace our ancestry, most of our ancestry invariably goes to Gog and Magog, or the descendants of Japhet, the third son of Noah. So we are not amongst them. We are not the Semitic races, so to speak. But by extension, we add, or we become a part of them, because we accept the same statutes as they have accepted.
But then are we then as extension even? Are we in the middle of the?
So this is the directive of the Quran, that you are supposed to be in the middle. You are designated at this. If you don't behave like this, then of course the Quran says at other instances that you will be stripped of this position. And today, if you ask me, the Israelites were already stripped earlier on, and the Ishmaelites, although they have not been stripped as yet, but they are facing the wrath of God and his punishment for not being leaders of mankind, or as the Quran had said earlier on, that if they follow the path of Abraham, then just as Abraham was appointed as the leader of mankind, his ummah would also do the same. So neither the Banu Ishaq or the Banu Israel, which were the first people who were given this responsibility, they could continue with that, and nor are the Ishmaelites. So today the Ishmaelites, as I said, are scattered. And when we say that we are in the middle, it doesn't mean that we are in the middle. It means that we are supposed to be in this position, that we must come up and be in this position. But we are not coming up to that position. So it's not that the fact that we are in that position, it's the Quran says that you are supposed to come and occupy this position. So at the moment we have left that position vacant.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Atif Adi, you're up next. Please go ahead.
सर ये सवाल ये था कि आपने कहा कि जैसे मुसलमान जब मक्का में थे तो वो उनको डायरेक्शन एक ही थी बैतुल मक़दिस की और काबे की, जब मदीने में गए तो फिर ये क्वेश्चन रेज हुआ, तो क्या उनको ये क्लियरली कम्युनिकेट किया गया था कि आप यरूशलेम ही की तरफ कर रहे हैं, मक्के की तरफ नहीं कर रहे? क्योंकि अगर ये क्लियरली नहीं था तो फिर तो मदीने में जाते ही ये क्वेश्चन रेज हो जाना चाहिए था कि वो मक्के की तरफ या उसकी तरफ करेंगे.
So you see, what has happened is that they were clearly communicated that their Qibla is going to change. But once they went to Medina and once they could see that the truth was being communicated and the Jews and the Christians were being presented their charge sheet, and it seemed imminent to them that this might happen, that the Israelites would now be stripped of their position. So this desire once again came back to them, that if Israelites or these people are going to be stripped from their position, and they are no longer being in that position that they were earlier supposed to be, and now the position is going to be occupied by themselves. So they thought that because it was something that they were told and it might be a temporary sort of a period, so it was a desire that came up repeatedly amongst them. As you can see, we will see in the next verses, it says, "Qad nara taqalluba wajhika fis samai," which means that we see that, O Prophet, you continue to look up to the sky and pray to God that God please restore the original Qibla. So basically, this was a desire that kept on coming in the minds of in the mind of the Prophet and the Muslims, that if that responsibility is being taken away from them, then maybe we are also going to be restored to our own Qibla. So it's like a wish, because you see, they could not have gone against the directive of God. So the directive of God was that it must pray towards the Baytullah. But in spite of obeying this directive, I mean, you can always have that desire that maybe now that they are being given this position, so they'll be restored their Qibla as well. So you have to make this differentiation. One is God's directive, and one is the Prophet's desire and the desire of the Muslims that maybe now their Qibla is going to be restored.
Iqra Bashir, please go ahead.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, मशरिक और मगरिब अल्लाह के हैं, तो फिर किबला मुतय्यन करने में क्या हिकमत है? और मतलब अगर काबा और बैतुल मक़दस एक ही साइड पे थे और वो उस तरफ मुंह करके, फिर तो ये मतलब वो दिल में तसल्ली दिए हुए थे कि नहीं, बेशक हम हुक्म वो फॉलो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन दिल में ये भी तसल्ली है कि किबला की तरफ है, तो वो तो फिर
You see, the Quran, what it is telling us is that directions don't matter. It is the directive of God which does matter. So you, as we have seen earlier on, and we'll see later on in these verses as well, they say that فَأَيْنَمَا تَوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you turn, you'll find God's countenance. So God doesn't need to be confined into space and time. This is our need. So when we are praying in a particular direction, it's like our need to make us uniform and do so. And so we are doing it at the behest of the Almighty. So basically, it's just a direction that we are following for all our own uniform and disciplined worship of God. That's all. Otherwise, in itself, it is nothing. And the Quran has repeatedly said this, that وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبُ, that these directions are immaterial. I mean, you can face the west, you can face the east, you can face the north anyway. But if you're being made to face a particular direction, then it is at the behest of the Almighty. It is God who is asking you to do so that there is the experience which is hidden or concealed in this directive is known to you. So in effect, it's basically God's directive that we are following. And that is what precisely these Jews and Christians were being told of those times. So one of them had adopted the western side of the Qibla, which were the Jews, and the Christians had adopted the eastern side of the Qibla within the Qibla. So within the Baitul Maqdis. So what they would do is, because we know that Maryam or Mary had stationed herself for itikaf on the eastern side of the temple. So the Christians preferred the eastern side. And as a result, we can see that the Jews went to the opposite side. So this caused a lot of rift between the Christians and the Jews because of the fact that one would insist on the eastern side and the other would insist on the western side. So the Almighty is now commenting on them. He's telling them that this is absolutely a pointless issue. It is a non-issue. I mean, you are facing the eastern side and they are facing the western side because of certain preferences. Whereas the fact is that facing a particular side in itself has nothing to do with it. It's basically God's directive that tells you that you have to face a particular direction. So you see, you need to go deep down and delve into the background of these verses in order to understand them.
Thank
Right,
you.
sir. Was the direction not decided for Christians and Jews? So they decided it by themselves?
So this was, of course, decided, but they took this as a difference. I mean, they changed the direction, they manipulated that direction, and as a result, I mean, they entered into these rifts. And if you study Jewish literature and Christian literature, you'll find this rift being recorded in history as well. So basically, it was, I mean, they were told to face the Baitul Maqdis, and they did so when they were outside the Baitul. I mean, when they were inside the Baitul Maqdis. The question arose when they would go outside of the Baitul Maqdis. So in that particular case, they were one of the groups. The Christians would turn towards the eastern side, and the Jews would turn towards the western side. So this is something which they knew very well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We have 12 minutes remaining, so I'd request the remaining participants to please keep their questions concise. Shiraz, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Shehzad bhai. Shehzad bhai, the direct Baitul Maqdis is normally called the first Qibla. Maulana Maududi has written specifically in his commentary that when the Muslims were in Makkah, they were praying towards Kaaba. It's only after migration to Medina that they were given a temporary, commandment. It was a test for Bani Ismail that whether they preferred the commandment of God or the tradition of their ancestors. So according to him, it was only for 16 or 17 months time span that they were pointing to Baitul Maqdis, and it was a message for the Jews as well. So do you agree with this interpretation that
you see,
it wasn't the first Qibla for 14 years since Prophet Muhammad became a prophet, or it was a Qibla only for a temporary period of time after migration? Which one is it?
I think it was a Qibla for a temporary period of time. The only difference between the Mufassirun is whether that was in Mecca or in Medina. I mean, whether Muslims were told to pray towards the Baitul Maqdis, whether this directive came when the Prophet was in Mecca, or whether it came when they had migrated to Medina. So this is the point of difference. And Maududi Saab is a person who belongs to the second category of Mufassirun who say that this directive was actually given once they had migrated to Medina. But there are other people who say, so to me, it doesn't in fact matter, because whether you take it to be a Meccan directive or to a Medinan directive, what we need to understand is that it was a temporary directive given to the Muslims in a certain period of time, which, of course, in the absence of any explicit directive in the Quran, we cannot say that it was given in Medina or in Mecca. I think that this is something which was given earlier on in the Meccan period, and it was a temporary directive, and it continued, of course, during the time of Mecca, and so did it in the time of Medina. And precisely that is the reason why you see that the Prophet was very anxious that it be turned back to its original position, which does tell us that they were actually praying towards the Kaaba when they were in Mecca. And because of the fact that the Kaaba and the Baitul Maqdis in Mecca were aligned in the same direction, the question never arose. So whether you accept this interpretation or Maududi Saab's interpretation, it doesn't make a substantive difference. But what needs to be understood is that it was a temporary directive. And once this temporary directive was withdrawn, of course, Muslims were asked to once again face the Kaaba.
Shabnam, please go ahead.
सर आपने अभी कहा कि हमारी मुस्लिम्स की पिटाई इसलिए हो रही है बिकॉज वी आर नॉट कमिंग टू द पॉइंट, हम अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी पूरी नहीं कर रहे. सर ये समझ में नहीं आता कि सफर कर रहे हैं पुअर वीक इनोसेंट और कंपैरेटिवली बेटर मुस्लिम्स जो एरोगेंट रिच एंड प्रिविलेज्ड हैं वो तो seemingly they are totally unaffected. So sir, how is this?
You see, what I was referring to was the collective entity of the Muslims or the believers. So the Banu Ismail, they are being told that if they follow the ways of Abraham, they would be installed as the leaders of the rest of mankind. So this would be a decision which God will make and install them on that position. Because of the fact that we are not following the ways of Abraham, and of course, truth and religion themselves are not. I mean, we are not implementing them in our polity the way we should have. So that position of leadership is we are being stripped of that position of leadership, and not only are we being stripped of that position of leadership, but we are also in a state of decadence. So basically, this is not referring to an individual, posture. It's referring to our collectivity. So if the Banu Ishmael, wherever they are, they organize themselves in a single collectivity and follow the ways of Abraham, the promise is going to be fulfilled for them by the Almighty. But because this is not happening, so you see them all scattered, and not only scattered, but they are also in this decadent state.
Noshaba Wasim, please go ahead.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर। सर मेरा क्वेश्चन यहाँ पे है कि हमें जिस तरह काबे की तरफ ही नमाज पढ़ने का हुक्म है, लेकिन जब हम सफर में होते हैं या बीमार होते हैं या गाड़ी में होते हैं या जहाज में, तो उसमें तो हम काबे की डायरेक्शन कई दफा नहीं कर सकते, तो उसमें हमें क्या अल्लाह ताला का हुक्म है फिर?
So this is an area in which we have been given concession. While we are stationed, it is essential that we face the Kaaba. But in a moving frame of reference, when we are moving, for example, in a car or in an aircraft or some other contraption, facing the Kaaba is something which is not mandatory in such circumstances. So it is mandatory only when we are stationed at one place.
Same as sickness, if you are sick and you are not able to...
Well, that is another question. I mean, if you are sick and you are not even aware of the direction, that is another thing. Because you see, if you are sick, however much you might be sick, you can still, I think, even if you're lying down, perhaps you can face the Kaaba, unless you are so unaware as to not even know. So it all depends on how your situation is. But I would say that when you are stationed and even when you are sick, you can still turn towards the Kaaba.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shiraz, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sister. Shehzad, another common thing that we hear that pointing towards Baitul Muqaddas is part of Shariat and Muslim. One thing that I don't understand about it is Baitul Muqaddas was never built in the lifetime of Moses. It was built by Prophet Solomon. So whatever the later prophets of Bani Israel did by the commandment of God is considered to be part of Shariat and Muslim by extension.
I think if you read the history of this area, and especially some of the things that Ustaz Hamid Farai has pointed out, and also some of the narratives, you'll find that when Abraham had settled his progeny in Mecca, he had settled Isaac and his mother Sarah in Palestine. And we have narratives that say that he had demarcated the house of, it was of course built later on by David and Solomon, but the mosque itself had been demarcated by Abraham himself when he had settled Isaac there. So the mosque was always there. It was not built. Something that the construction itself was something that came later on in the times of David and Solomon. And we also know that later on these temples were, the mosque and the temple itself was destroyed twice. Once in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, and secondly in the times of Titus when the Romans came and destroyed. And so in these periods of time we never had any construction there, but other than that we had that construction. So the word mosque doesn't apply to the constructed area. I think it applies to the demarcated land which was reserved as the house of God. So my answer would be that this was something, just as Ishmael, when they were raising the foundations of Kaaba, they were not, or when in the times of the Prophet himself, we know that it was destroyed several times. So just as in the times of Abraham, it was like a second construction of the same house. It does seems to me that in the times of David also, it was a second construction of a house that had already been demarcated by their progenitor and forefather Abraham.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We have one last question of the day. Adil Qureshi asks, what would regaining leadership to Bani Ismail would mean in today's context? Because in the modern world, the nations that are leading are the ones that are most advanced technologically. So would Allah make Bani Ismail the most technologically advanced nation if they abide by his promise?
So you see, if you read the Torah and if you also connect to some parts of the Torah to the Quran, you'll find out that the promise which was made with the Israelites, which is mentioned in Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, if I remember correctly, it's chapter number 18, the same promise was made for the Ishmaelites also. And this was that they will become united and follow the truth and the concepts which were revealed by the Almighty regarding basic morality and religion. So if this is something that they adhere to now in their collective capacity, even if they are scattered, I mean, if they have a land in which they can display this to be the truth, I mean, or something which they implement, then the Almighty says, and the rest of the Ummah also joins forth in a way that even if they are not geographically connected, then at least they are connected in the moral sense to the same stature. Then the Almighty says that the Ishmaelites would be restored to that position of leadership of the world. And this is something that for which they will not have to cause any bloodshed or they don't need to launch any offensive. It will be done by the Almighty himself. He will change the circumstances such that as long as the Ishmaelites adhere to his promise, he is going to change the world in their favor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. We have one more question. Shaz, go ahead.
Shehzad bhai, a question not related to today's discussion, and I'm sure you have answered it a million times before, but please do it one more time. In case of Adam, when God asked angels to prostrate in front of him, a set of very short questions come from the masses that, did God ask all the angels, and why devil was supposed to prostrate in front of Adam when he was not an angel? Was he an angel first and later became a jinn, etc., etc.? So can you just give a one-liner answer to all of this, especially the part, did God ask all the angels to do it?
So you see, as you can see from Surah Baqarah and some of the other instances like Surah Taha and Surah Araf, if you gather all these instances, which I think amount to 9 or 11, in which this incident of Adam and Satan are mentioned, you'll find out that there is one instance in Surah Araf, if I remember correctly, in which the wordings is such that it was not just the angels all the angels who were asked to prostrate. It was Satan himself, who is not an angel. I mean, we know that he was from among the jinn, as the Quran has specified elsewhere, that not only the angels were asked to prostrate, but the devil, the jinn were also asked to prostrate. And because Satan was a jinn, so this question which often people ask, that was it that all the angels were the jinn also asked to do so? The question is yes, because if you study Surah Baqarah, you're not going to get the answer. But if you study the rest of the areas in which, or the instances in which this incident is mentioned, if I remember correctly, it is Surah Araf, because the words are Amartuk. So it says that, why did you not prostrate when I had ordered you to do so? So this clearly shows in Surah Araf that the jinn were also subjected to this command, and all the jinn did so except one of them, and that was Satan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem.
What about all the angels? Did God ask all the angels to
all the angels? Yes. See, the words are وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. And then as the verse goes on, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا آدَمَ, what is the word? أُسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. So if you pursue the context of that verse, it does seem that all the angels were asked to prostrate before Adam.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
you
you.
Also know that the Satan was not an angel, and the question which actually arises, that why is it that Satan was singled out because he was not an angel? So the answer to that is that Satan was a jinn, and the order was given to all angels and to all jinn. So all angels and all jinn prostrated except one jinn, and that was Satan. And the Quran said, Aba wastakbara, that he refused and he was arrogant. وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem, for another amazing lesson. Inshallah, see you next week, and assalamu alaikum to everyone.